Hi again, Ashland Eagles football fans. David Wilson here, sitting with head coach Doug Geiser of the Eagles. We're brought to you by the AU Gridiron Club. And Coach, great to be with you. Thank you for your time. And I guess just pleased as much as possible at getting you to sit still for about a half hour. I know you're a busy guy at this time of year.
Yeah, we're going into our fourth day of spring practice tomorrow, and so obviously had meetings this morning, staff meetings, and we always take our Wednesday mornings after the staff meeting to start talking recruiting for 2027 already. So we're already on to that, and so it's a constant movement every single day, but it's fun. It's fun.
It's all leading up to a spring game on the 25th of April, and of course, in terms of long-term planning, the season opener for 2026 is September 3rd against IUP, and that'll be here at home, but we'll get to all that in a little bit. I want to start, Doug, because you had a chance to travel over to Toledo a few days ago. Now we're taping this here in late March, but just a few days ago, you had a chance to go witness Michael Shimek's Pro Day over at the University of Toledo. Of course, Michael had a phenomenal season, one for the ages in 2025, his senior season as a defensive end here with the Eagles. But just tell the fans how all that unfolded and how proud you were to see one of your players out there.
Yeah, it was extremely proud of Michael and all the work he's put in, and obviously the production. We enjoyed the fruits of his production during the season, and he would like to play beyond. And so he got an invite to go to the University of Toledo Pro Day, and they get a lot of traffic up through there. They've got a very highly regarded safety and a couple other defensive backs that'll probably get in the NFL camp. And so it was a chance for Michael to get in front of a lot of coaches and show his wares, get a chance to test, height, weight test, do a lot of drills, and he represented the Eagles very, very well.
You know, he had a first-team All-American season, obviously Defensive Player of the Year in the GMAC, 17 and a half sacks. And I know talking to him early in the season, he was thinking about maybe trying to have a pro day. I think it was a no-brainer by the time the season got over with.
Yeah, with the stats he put up and the recognition he got, and the team recognition. Usually, there's a lot of times when teams perform at a high level, people want to know who's causing all that, and Michael was obviously one of the ringleaders of that with his performance. And so it's nice to see him have those aspirations, and it's nice to see him get the opportunity to show those his skills, and hopefully we can get him into camp somewhere.
You know, just to finish up on that, it's not a situation where you can just walk in, you're invited, but once inside, what happens in a pro day? What are some of the kind of activities that they put the players through? What are the scouts looking for on those types of events?
I would say if you've watched the NFL Combine on TV, it's very, very similar to that on a smaller scale. So when you first get there, you're going to fill out questionnaires, get a lot of information. They're going to height you, they're going to weight you, measure hand size, arm length, all the pertinent stuff that they can measure, they're going to measure. And then they'll go right to a bench press test, a 225 test. And then they go to the indoor facility and run the 40, run a pro shuttle, run a 3-cone drill, broad jump, vertical jump. And then after that, I believe it was, they had down to a 13, so it was science, 13 minutes for each position doing position drills.
You know, there's so many opportunities now for players. Obviously, the ultimate goal would be to be in the NFL, but you have the Canadian Football League, now you have the United Football League that is gaining traction. So in today's world, there are even a few more opportunities to latch on and keep playing than maybe in the older days.
Yeah, absolutely. Even across the seas. I know we get correspondence from Great Britain, from Germany, and other European leagues as well. So if you desire to play it at another level, you can do that. And if you, like I said, ultimately everybody's goal is to go to the NFL. But if they don't, the biggest thing is to get on tape at a bigger level, and then hopefully I might give you an opportunity to get into a higher level camp and so on and so forth.
Doug, we've come through maybe one of the more tumultuous off seasons in college football. Going back a couple of months to the transfer portal, it became sort of a free-for-all in college football. I was reading a couple articles estimated there were about 10,500 players across all levels of college football that entered the transfer portal and tried to find new homes. And I just wanted to get some of your thoughts on how you tried to navigate through that. Division II was certainly impacted not only by players entering the transfer portal here, but even being plucked from the Division I level more than we have seen in the past. And I just wondered what your thoughts were and how you guys came through it and your thoughts on where this is all leading.
Where it's all leading, I'll attack from that first. I'm not sure. It's reality as we stand right now. And as far as here at Ashland, we're not going to major in the portal. Talking, as far as incoming, we're always going to be high school based. That's the foundation of our program. But for the good of the program, we will investigate and see who's in the portal, see if there's a fit. For us, it's more of a short-term need a lot of times, and we have a short-term need. Like last year, adding DJ Butler and Izzy Vasquez, and were tremendous players for us. Tremendous players for us. We were searching for maybe some more experienced guys in the back end to help bridge the gap to some of our younger players who we're really high on, and they both fit the tab. For us, though, when you look at a transfer, whether it's in the portal, whether it's in a junior college, they got to fit. They got to fit the culture and be able to buy into what the Ashland football is, what being an Ashland man is. As far as moving back some of the other things too, very tumultuous. Yeah, we ended up losing two players that played significantly for us, and hey, you wish them well. You keep the door open for a return. All the players usually come in and talk to me first and let me know they're either considering it or they're going to go in, and we have a conversation. And as far as what they're looking for, and like I said, you always leave the door open to a return, and you hope they find what they're looking for.
I think that one thing that stood out to me, and I think other people have echoed this, is just not wanting to see Divisions 2 and 3 become sort of a minor league farm system for Division 1. I don't know if that is truly something that is going to transpire or not. But it just seemed like you heard about a lot of Division 1 teams picking up Division 2 guys where you really never heard of that in the past. I don't know why that changed all of a sudden.
It was, with Division 1 having only a 14-day window, obviously and that started January 2nd and went through January 16th. So what population or what players were available before that? Division 3, NAIA, Division 2. So that's kind of why it might have got a little bit more publicity this year is because of that. But I think for me, it's you really got to look at it. It makes it tougher to coach your team, that's for sure, because we're very demanding here, and there's a certain culture and there's a certain standard of excellence that we promote and we believe in, and so it's kind of, there are definite good reasons to have the portal available, but it really kind of makes a team game a little more individualistic, if that makes sense. And so it's something you got to navigate, and we're navigating it here, and we've been very, very fortunate to have a lot of good players buy into what the Ashland Eagle football program is and what being an Ashland man is. Because it's more than football here. It's more than football here, and we've had a lot of guys that bought into that, and we've had guys go in the portal and come back because it wasn't necessarily what they're looking for, and they liked the product that they were here. They liked their teammates. They liked the program. They liked the tradition, whatever is involved with the Ashland University program. They really were enjoying their experience with that. And sometimes you kind of bemoan a little bit. One of the problems in the portal, though, is every time you transfer, you're probably setting back your graduation a year. And I would think the first part of being a college football player is being the student before the athlete, and it's get that degree. We talk all the time, with our guys, use football, don't let football use you. And if somebody's going to help you and invest in you to be a part of the program, shame on you if you don't get that piece of paper at the end of the day, that diploma, because nobody can take that away from you. So that should always be the number one concern there. And if you have a chance to play football and play at a high level and compete on a national level, even so much the better. But it's put a little monkey wrench in the whole idea of what a college football player is. What the answer is, I don't have the answer. If I did, I'd write a book and make a whole lot of money about that. But we'll navigate it as it is. We'll find the players who buy into what being an Ashland Eagle player are, and we'll kind of go from there.
I think from a standpoint of the coaching staff at the school where a player is leaving, you don't want to begrudge a young man for finding an opportunity at a higher level, and especially now when some significant money can be involved
Yeah.
in that system. At the same time, you have to coach your team for a cohesive, to be a cohesive unit year to year.
Yeah.
And I think that is the other thing that stands out to me across all sports. You see it in college basketball as well, is that a lot of these players are foregoing the opportunity to build a base
Yeah.
of home, of contacts, of lifelong relationships that you would normally build over a 4 to 5 year span at a single school, and that becomes your alma mater and where you are going to return and where you'll maintain your loyalty and friendships throughout your whole life. If you're playing at 3 or 4 different schools, that kind of concept is out the window.
Yeah, I look. Yeah, that's a very good point. You get a chance to maybe leave a legacy. I think even here on the Ashland campus this past year, Maceo Williams. Maceo has had the opportunity to leave the last 3 years and did not really bought into what John Ellenwood was selling and what he was building with the basketball program, and he has left a legacy here. I think he's the second leading scorer, third leading rebounder, or vice versa. 2-time conference player of the year, helped elevate the program. And for him, it was about more than just the money in the transaction. He was offered a lot of money. He was. I don't tell me how I know that. I know that. But for him, kudos to the way he was raised. Kudos to his parents. Did a great job instilling great values in him. And I use him as an example with some of our guys. And some of our guys, I would counsel them to go, hey, go talk to Maceo about this. How did he handle this? And kind of go from there. But the other thing it has done, and you're very in tune with the whole thing, it's added another step as far as your off-season preparation. I noticed that for the first time since we were really struck by it for the first time this year. Usually at the end of the season, I take Christmas, New Year's, you get a chance to get away, recharge the batteries, set the focus, set the direction for the next year, and kind of the tack you're going to take and evaluate everything and corrections you need to make. This year, there was another step before I could even get to that. I had to figure out who's on my team. Because you had some players in the portal. Are they leaving definitely? Are they coming back definitely? And a lot of indecision right there, and you just don't know. And so it adds a little bit of angst, and it's not the player's fault with that. It's something we got to navigate. Like I said, it was the first time I had to go through that this past year, and obviously like I said, was very, very fortunate that the majority of guys that went in the portal came back. And I felt good about it as a confirmation of maybe the way we're doing things here, and the experience they were having at Ashland, both on and off the field.
Doug, as we now turn our attention to 2026, I know that you have had some changes in your coaching staff. I want to give you a chance to kind of brief the fans on that, but I guess chief among those changes, the retirement of the great Tom Stacy, who has had just a tremendous career in football. He was your offensive coordinator and quarterbacks coach, and obviously served under Lee Owens as well. But we wish Tom all the best. We're going to miss interacting with him during the season, but an opportunity opens up for A.J. Nikolai, and tell us about that and some of your other coaching changes.
Yeah, the first thing I'd say is Tom. I mean, Tom's like a brother to me. We coached together off and on for almost 30 years. And tremendous coach, tremendous person more than anything else. So his loss will be felt. His loss will be felt. And but like you said, when something like that happens, a retirement happens, opportunity opens up. And it was an opportunity for the program to elevate a young man who's come through and started as a graduate assistant. And then when I took over, I bumped AJ to his first full-time job as a running backs coach. Last year, gave him a pass game coordinator title, and he was interested in the offensive coordinator job and also coaching quarterbacks. And I had an interest there too, and it just kind of fit. So we elevated AJ to the quarterbacks in a coordinator role on the offensive side. It also allowed me too, with that salary slot, I was able to elevate another one of our young coaches, one of our Ashland Eagle alums, Garrett Turnbaugh. He's still the receivers coach, but now he has added the title of recruiting coordinator, which I think he'll do a tremendous job being one of us, and loves this place and knows how to sell Ashland, and it's great for the program to put him in that role. Also offensively, so when you take AJ out of the running backs job, you need a running backs coach. So once he finishes the semester here, our quarterback from last year, Cameron Blair, will be coaching running backs for us and jumping into the offensive graduate assistant role. And we were also able to take our current offensive graduate assistant, Evan Kirkpatrick, another Ashland alum, and we moved him into a kind of a pseudo offensive analyst. He's a video coordinator, assistant recruiting coordinator, assistant DFO, kind of a catch-all and a jack of all trades off the field for us. So I was able to reward a number of guys who have come through the program, some as players, some as coaches, and you have that continuity here, and that's one thing, and that consistency in staff and personnel is something we can do here at Ashland. I think it makes this place special, is taking care of your own. And then on the defensive side of the ball, we had some turnover as well. Chris Julian, our defensive GA, another Ashland alum, is getting into some personal business and working with draft picks and scouting and kind of the training of kids for the draft. And so we're going to elevate one of our student assistants, Braden Leach, to the defensive graduate assistant role. And then we lost Donzel Ashley, left for another opportunity, and so did Dominic Orsini. So that opened up a couple spots there, and we hired two guys I'm really excited for in the back end. Joe Nemeth, who I've known for over 30 years, able to bring him back as our corners coach, and he's also going to be our director of football operations. And then Romeo Weichel from Tennessee Chattanooga, another young coach. I think he has a tremendous future. He's going to coach our safeties, and he's our academic coordinator. So for a place that has not had a lot of staff turnover in almost 70 years, having those 5 things happen all in 1 year was kind of a whirlwind. But we navigated it, and I think we've recharged the batteries and ready for the 2026 season with the staff.
Coach, the one thing I'm worried about with the departure of Donzel, I'm worried if anyone else can even remotely be as cool as he was. I mean, on the cool meter, he was way up there. So
yeah, he was.
I think he's going to Permian Basin in Texas.
Yes, he
right?
is. Yeah.
So
yes, he is.
they've got a cool coach on their staff right now.
they do.
I don't know how you plan to handle that.
I'm not sure. We'll do it as a group effort. We'll do it as a group effort. Not myself personally, but I think maybe Coach Turnbaugh, Coach Weichel will step into those roles. Coach Blair has a little bit of flair for that as well. So it won't be the same as Donzel. It will not be, but we'll always love Donzel here, and had an opportunity to go be a coordinator at Permian Basin, and absolutely he's a coach on the move and on the rise, and he's got a great, very, very bright future ahead of him.
I will say this in all seriousness, Doug, that when I am at practice, the coaching staff here, the way you have it set up, and I'm sure you learned that from Lee, but you work so well together. You're all connected. Everybody is on the same page. You're coaching the players up. It really is something to see, but I know it doesn't happen by accident. I know that's a coordinated effort that you guys work on daily through meetings and making sure you're on the same page.
There was a lot of great attributes that Coach Owens had, and if I can pick a little bit of his skill in putting a staff together, I'll be in a great shape there. But I thought one of his great attributes was he knew how to recruit players and coaches chemistry-wise, and find the guys that will just fit together and play off of each other, know how to coordinate those different personalities and meld them into one functioning unit that's very, very sound, and the synergy is great with. And so anything I've learned there, it happened either by chance or by being around Lee for 28 years, maybe picking up a couple things with that. But we have a lot of good guys on staff. They got a proper perspective. It's about more than football. That's the one thing we do preach. It's about more than football. So we are invested in our young men's lives, in the classroom, in the community, in the family, football-wise. We know that we're more than just a football coach. You're a mentor with that, and there's somebody. It's an ear that you got a problem. Hey, you come see us, and we'll work together to overcome that. And we talk about that right from recruiting. When you come here, hey, we're going to celebrate a lot of successes together. And when there is adversity, we're going to go through it together. So I've been lucky. You got guys on staff that buy into that. Tim Rose. We're blessed to have somebody like Tim Rose or John Sockerman, who've been doing it for a number of years and are doing a tremendous job with that. My middle-aged coach, Jim Cordell, okay? He's a middle-aged guy on staff, and Jim believes in that too, and he's got a great way with the players. And the coaches do a great job of building that relationship, and I think that's what shows up on the field.
Doug, spring football is here, as we said before. You guys are already hard at it in terms of practices and the weightlifting program. It's a lot of activity, a chance for the players to get back together and get back to getting better on the football field. Just kind of take the fans through maybe how you plan for the spring. Does it change each year based on the previous regular season? Or how do you kind of attack that to know what you want to work on and accomplish in the spring?
We break it down into different aspects, different stages in the off season. And it's all kind of a building process leading to training camp, leading to the regular season. So as we talked about in an earlier segment, I take Christmas and New Year's in the first part of January. Okay, what have we done? Where have we been? How did we get there? What worked? What didn't work? What do we got to tweak? Where do we have to add maybe more to the system? And then the first major phase, probably the most important phase, is that 8-week session during winter, the first 8 weeks of the semester. And that's when our team is with Coach Mason, Corey Mason, and his staff, Isaac Barnhart Aaron Barnhart and Isaac Ridgway. And they do a tremendous job. They put our guys through a tremendous cycle to help them develop physically, getting bigger, get stronger, work on that speed, work on your agility. And they're in that 8-week cycle. We test at the end of it right before spring break. And what we're doing as coaches during that time is we're also planning. We're evaluating the season, but planning forward. Okay, we evaluate, hey, this is what we did last year or the previous year. Does that still fit this year's team? Or do we need to supplement? Do we need to change things up a little bit because maybe the problems we're encountering aren't being solved by the scheme or the system we're using? So, I've been very, very lucky to be around a guy, like Lee Owens and Paul Winters, when I was a younger coach. And so the guts of what we do as far as setting up spring practice is very, very similar. For us, we take the tact in spring that is a teaching situation. It's a laboratory. The players get to show off their shiny new bodies and how they've enhanced their skill set and show us on field, show us the carryover for all the work they did in the winter. For coaches, maybe you've added some tweaks to the system and you get a chance to now test them out in a controlled situation. It's just something that can help our scheme going forward, special teams, offense, defense. And you got to make it fun as well. We get 15 days. We get 15 days over 15 practices over 36 days. And so the way we set it up is we practice every other day. We go Tuesdays, Thursdays, Saturdays. We're able to have 3 scrimmages. So we have 3 scrimmages. 2 are really controlled. And then the third one, we let the players pick and, old school, have a spring game. And they draft the players, they draft the coaches, support staff, they play for a prize, and it's a very, very heated prize. Last year, it was get out of conditioning one day during training camp. That seemed to be the high prize with that. But it's a nice time. As a coach, I always enjoy spring. You're very, very low key. You get a chance to recover physically and mentally. You have a lot of meeting time to teach and maximize the teaching. Everybody gets a chance to get on tape, and that's really in a lot of respects where you earn your spot on the depth chart is in the spring. Not that you can't do it in August, but training camp is only 2.5, 3 weeks. And at that point, from day one, we're already preparing for the season. From game 1, IUP, game 2, Grand Valley. And so there's not a lot of time just to spend just in teaching at a pace that the players have to go. I mean, we got to get it and go. We got to get it and go. We got to put stuff in. We got to stop prepping for that game because it's going to be there before you know it.
Yeah, I was going to ask you that, Coach. You hit on it already, but can a job be won or lost in spring ball?
Yes, I believe so. Yeah, I believe so. And you might not fully win it in the spring. Like I'll go back, 3 years ago, my first year, Austin Brenner had graduated in 2022, and we had a quarterback competition going into the spring. And really, it came down to Trevor Bazinski and Cameron Blair. And coming through the spring, Trevor was ahead coming out of spring, but I wanted to keep the pressure on him a little bit, and so I didn't name a quarterback until the season because I wanted them to be able to compete and prepare through the summer and through training camp to see, kind of confirm is that the direction we want to go as a team. So that will happen. I mean, this year we got to replace Mike Shimek. That's a big hole. You got to take 17 sacks out of the mist, 17 and a half sacks. So there's no competition at defensive end. Obviously, it's nice to have Elisha there with his 13 and a half sacks. But you look at this year, we got a quarterback job open. So there's a lot of great competition there. 3 starters back on the offensive line, 3 really good players. But we graduate 4-year starter Ethan Enders at center, 4-year starter Nick Walker at left tackle, who, by the way, were also four-time All-League players. So it's exciting in that respect. you can, like you said, you can put a leg up in a lot of opportunities. You're going to win that job in the spring, but you can also lose it there too.
Coach, I know that you and your staff, you are building this program to be competitive nationally. And I know that the way the season ended against Ferris State, where you guys were competitive early, but like everyone else, you wore down, and Ferris State was Ferris State, exactly what we thought they were.
Yeah.
What does spring ball, and then using that to springboard into the fall, how do you use that to elevate the preparation and the expectations so that the players are thinking along the same lines? We want to be vying for a national championship as well as our conference championship, but just to have those goals become a little bigger.
Yeah, well, what we do, those are things we talk about in the walls of this building here. It's not necessarily for the public to understand, but is our ultimate goal to be where Ferris State is? Yeah, it is. That's every team in America has that goal. And kudos to Tony Anise and Ferris State. They've won 4 out of 5. I mean, that's the standard right now. So you can talk about it in those terms. Hey, we know, okay, you competed early, we didn't finish. Okay, and so you evaluate, why did that happen? Was it an execution thing? Was it a personnel thing? Was it a system thing? And you look to correct that going forward is what you do. But you also don't put the cart before the horse. Okay, that thing happened in postseason. You can't assume you're going to make the postseason. Okay, that's disrespectful to the other 11 teams on our schedule that are trying to keep us from doing that. So we just maintain our focus. Hey, number one, okay, we set goals. I've met with the captains. We kind of know what the goals of the team are going forward. Now we set up little guideposts along the way through the year to kind of help us advance towards those goals and keep us focused on the task at hand. Don't look all the way out here for the whole year, okay? Keep right on, hey, what can I do today to help me achieve that goal? And as we joke, it's kind of becoming a running joke during the season, on my coach's show. But hey, you just take care of today. You go 1-0 today, 1-0 against this opponent, 1-0 today. Well, if I gotten better today, even 1% better today, that's going to help me advancing towards that. And for us, it's kind of the old Nick Saban thing. It's a journey. It's a process. It's not just a destination. It's a process along the way. It's a way you live your life. And hopefully by doing that as an example through football, guys will have that preparation to do it in life going forward as well. Because football does end at some point. It does end at some point, but you want to hopefully have those habits ingrained in you to be able to help you solve the problems of life going forward.
I guess certainly there's height, weight, and speed, but when you think of Division II football, what do you think is the separator from the elite teams that do compete for a national championship every year compared to teams that bow out earlier?
Depth is obviously an issue, and that's huge. So you've always got to stay about your knitting, so to speak, in recruiting. I think if you look at it, I think the depth and the ability you have on the offensive and defensive lines, I think is a separator. I think the depth or the skill you might have at positions on the flank, like corner, I think those are all huge. Those are all huge. You look at the best teams in the country traditionally. I mean, let's look at Ferris State. Let's look at Grand Valley, who's on the schedule this year. They are always really, really, really good up front on both sides of the ball. And that's a separator. And a lot of times they'll win the game just because teams cannot hold up against them up front. So you got to recruit with that in mind. If that's your goal, to be where they are, you better have guys on both lines to be able to hang in there physically. Otherwise, it doesn't matter what else happens at that point. Now, you can probably tell I'm an offensive line coach. A lot of times I'll see the game through that lens. But I think there is a lot of truth to that. You even look on the NFL level. Okay, you look at Indiana, the jump they made with Curt Cignetti, and how much better they've gotten on the offensive and defensive lines, both through their recruiting, but also through their development too. And so it is kind of universal in that respect. So just from being to the playoffs multiple times during my 23 years here, that's what I've seen. That's the separator once you get to the playoffs. You got to be able to hang in there up front.
Doug, I want to wrap up our conversation here for our spring preview and just talk a little personnel. And I know that's difficult because you've got tons of guys on the roster. You have a recruiting class that's going to be coming in. So we'll probably wait until our way too early season preview in the summer when we do this to really get in depth on some of the positions, but maybe just some of the foremost positions on your mind going into the spring. We're replacing Cam Blair at quarterback, of course, and I know we have a transfer coming in from Eastern Illinois, Brady Ford, who's going to compete for that job, but just some of the position battles that you might foresee, and also some guys that you're just excited to have coming back, like an Elisha Baldridge.
Yeah. Well, let's start with Elisha. That's a good one to start with. And it's just a fun guy to watch. If you want to go to the game, don't watch the ball. Just watch Elisha. Watch number 2. And the motor and the passion and the enthusiasm he plays for. I'm really excited for him. He was a wrestler and a football player when he first came here. He was a scholarship wrestler as well. And at the end of the season, he made a decision just to go football full time. So he actually had a first full-time winter training cycle. He's never had that before. And to see the way he's blown up physically and starting to develop, I'm excited for him this spring to take that next step. So he had a great mentor in Mike Shimek, and was, he was there a lot of times doing the extra stuff and watching what he did, and more important, how he did it. And so that's really, really excited there. But obviously there's opportunity at the other defensive end position, going forward. So does that end up being a Brendan Hermensky or a Darius Atley, Ben Colley? You don't know. It's exciting for me to see, because I think we have some good options and choices there, and just to let them play it out and compete is great. You stay on the defensive side of the ball. Obviously, I like our linebacking core. Between Jack Talkington and Ben Holzaffel, tremendous players, all league players, and really took a step forward last year, and I'm excited to see them take another step. And I've seen it in the offseason. I've challenged both of them to become leaders on the team, and they have. And that's exciting for me to see them take that mantle and make it their team and not my team. It's really important. But even also in that room, you got Sam Wakula, who's put a lot of good minutes for us, and on special teams, and at linebacker, and Braden Smith, a legacy, has done a great thing, come in and done a great job upholding the Smith name at Ashland University. So that linebacking core is very, very solid. I like what we have there. In the back end, I think your conversation's got to start with E.J. Tia. E.J. Tia is a multi-year starter for us, all-league player for us also. And really between E.J. and Jack Talkington, Ben Holzaffel, and Bryson Getz, they've done a great job of leading that defensive unit in the offseason, and even leading the team. So we're going to feel a lot of the benefits of that kind of leadership mantle they've aspired to and kind of ascended to as we go through the season. But you also look at it, also in the secondary, because we graduated a little bit there with Izzy and DJ being gone. You got Isaac Brooks, multi-year starter at corner, expecting great things from Isaac. Damian Johnson has just scratched the surface of what he's able to do. You have DeLon Moss in the mix. You got Nick Sailors and Malik Kamara. Marquise Scott end up getting a 5th year, and we're going to benefit from that. So we're excited with that back end. A lot of guys and names you might not have heard before. Some guys you have. We kind of put them all together, and bottom line is I trust Coach Rose, and I trust Coach Nemeth and Coach Weichel to do a great job in that back end there. So, Ashland University football has always been about great defense, and I can see this group has a chance to be another great defense. We'll continue to work in development through the offseason.
Yeah, we're going to welcome Marquise back with open arms.
Yes.
He almost single-handedly won that conference title
Yes,
for
he
you
did.
with his interception that we'll always remember it at Tiffin.
Yep.
Offensively, I know Orlando Kamara is rehabbing season-ending injury that he had, and his timetable is what?
Yep. He is. He had that broken leg, and so he's recovering from surgery there. Just got the pins out, so he's progressing well. That room was beat up a little bit through the year, as we know. Will Trell Hartson had an ankle. He was, really kind of came to a fore against Tiffin, and
Ty Stevenson wasn't 100%.
Stevenson, the whole year he was not. And it's been neat to see. I actually made a comment to him yesterday after practice. He looks like the Ty Stevenson of old, just through 3 days of practice already. And he was not able to cut going one of the directions last year because of the ankle injury he had suffered against Kentucky Wesleyan at the end of the 2024 season. So, he's one of the hardest workers on the team, another accountability team captain for us, and does a great job in that respect. So it's great to see that back. And then obviously at the running back position, we can't fail to mention Chris Maloney and the impact he had, the last 5 games of the year. And we're excited because he's now had an off-season training cycle as well. He was a wrestler at Benedictine, tremendous wrestler. never really had an off-season training cycle to see the physical development that he's had. So I'm excited about that room. I mean, we'll use multiple running backs. We always have here at Ashland, and be a hallmark of what we are. We talked about quarterback a little bit. We mentioned it in passing, but competition there with Drew Novak and Brady Ford coming in. I'm excited for that. Darrell Shumpert is trying to insert himself in the mix there as well. So, I think we got some good options, and let it play out through the 3 scrimmages and see if there's a guy that's in a lead. If not, we'll keep the competition open through the fall, just like we did in previous years.
Well, I can see how Shumpert is inserting himself into the conversation. I think he chucked the ball about 75 yards in the air
yeah, he did.
Ago, so.
He was our JV offensive player of the year, offensive player of the year, and so did a tremendous job. He's come in and not a lot of fanfare or acclaim, and all he does is work. I think he kind of studies from the Mike Shimek book of preparation, where he's out here all hours of the day throwing the guys, working on his craft. So he's hungry. He wants to be the guy. So we'll throw him in the mix and let him compete.
Last guy I'll ask you about, Coach,
yeah.
and then we'll wrap it. DJ Harvey came in as a true freshman, caught 44 passes,
yep.
2 touchdowns, loaded with talent. Can't wait to see what he does in year 2.
Same here. Usually you get the biggest bump from year 1 to year 2, and tremendously talented coming in, led us in receiving, as you said. Obviously a great legacy from this program with his father Dewan and his uncle Chris, and he's doing a great job carrying on that legacy, the Harvey name here at Ashland. And so, we need some other guys to step up as well. It's time for Luke Brenner. We're excited about Luke Brenner's future, with there as well. Chris Brown, really started making himself an impact on special teams, as did Isaiah Ramsey. So you lose somebody like a Jen Joseph, you lose somebody like a Jamari Kroom and Akil Martin. It's now time for the next guys to come up. As we talk all the time, the expectation is not for the person, it's for the position. And if you want that job, go get it. I would mention that along with this as well, we talked offensive line a little bit earlier, but the tight end fullback room, Johnny Maramie. Johnny Maramie, really started stepping forward last year, working with Brock Henney, and we're excited for his future and looking for ways to incorporate him into the offense. And and by the way, he's got 2 young guys pushing him now too, and Blake Lindsley and Ty Beerbaum. Makai Bradley at fullback, Drexel McCamus at fullback. So, here at Ashland, we love our tight ends, we love our fullbacks. That's always going to be part of what we do. So, it's kind of next man up philosophy on the offense. And then once those guys win those positions, ascend to that leadership role, on that offensive side of the ball as well.
Coach, I love the passing to the fullback on the goal line situations. Just keep that in the back of your mind, okay?
We'll keep that in mind, yes.
Coach, it's great to talk with you and sit down. And again, I know in the half hour or so we've been talking, you're probably late for 2 or 3 different meetings, but it's great to get an update. Wish you all the best this spring. We'll look forward to the spring game on April 25 right here at Jack Miller Stadium. We're hoping for good weather.
Yep.
And then we'll talk again coming up this summer as we preview the 2026 season.
I appreciate it. Thank you for having me.
All right. That is head coach Doug Geiser of the Eagles. We appreciate you looking in here. Continue to follow the Eagles right here on Ashland University Football Highlights. It's all brought to you by the AU Gridiron Club.